Live. Hey,
Wicked.
brother. Hey, man. How are you?
Good, man. How are you, bro?
Fantastic, dude. It's you're up north traveling, right?
I am, yes. I'm in Cairns at the moment, actually, or Cairns for those who might pronounce it in the typical English language, but Cairns for anybody who understands
Cool. And
Aussie language.
so, I mean, just for people that are tuning in, you're top three now in Australia, correct?
Top four.
Top four,
So
right?
yes, we switched it to top four this year. The lovely Jenna Hemsworth has made it in. So what they did is Bacardi Legacy sponsors Bartender of the Year for Australian Bartender Awards, and then they do that as whoever wins that gets a wild card entry into it. So we've got top four this year. So even more competition, which is good, right? Breeds better results.
Does it?
I would think so. I mean, that's in theory. That's what the psychologists say, but I would say so.
Yeah,
Why not?
I think it's interesting because for everyone that I'm speaking to around the world, each country and each region has their own format. So, for
Sure.
example, Australia being such a massive market, and sending one bartender through. I know this year in America they're sending two bartenders through, one representing West Coast, one representing East
Sure.
Coast. So
I think
it's
they've been doing it for a few years now as well, haven't they?
no, this is the first year that they're doing that.
Maybe it's
Uh,
another competition I'm confusing it with, but yeah, yeah.
But I find it really interesting, man. I mean, there's a couple of things that I wanted to talk about today, and I think straight off the bat is you're clearly not an Aussie, and I am
Really
clearly
not.
not a Swede. Uh, so, you know, from your personal perspective, how do you find competing abroad? How are you finding competition life in Australia versus back in the States?
Well, I can't really speak on the competitions in the two countries comparatively because I've actually never competed in a cocktail competition in the United States. I will say that I do find it interesting, and I don't know the exact numbers on Legacy, but I do know the other numbers on other cocktail competitions. Where in you actually you think Australia has 30 million people roughly. I think it's even a bit less. I think it might be 23 million, if I remember correctly. And that no, yeah, that's it, 23 million. And then America has 330 million.
Yeah, it's
So
insane.
massive, massive discrepancy in terms of population numbers. So you would think the United States is a much harder market to get through, right? So it would make more sense to have an East Coast and a West Coast representative, as already happens in a lot of major competitions, and apparently is happening for the first time this year, Bacardi Legacy. But the thing is when you look at the total number of entrants, it gets really interesting. You actually see that in a lot of competitions, Australia actually has more entrants into it than the United States. And
Yeah.
so when you're talking in terms of a cocktail competition, it's actually tougher to get from Australia. So to get through from Australia. So again, I've never competed in the United States. I can't speak in terms of how that their format is different to ours and how it's more difficult. But I do find it interesting. A lot of people assume, I mean, Australia is really far away. It's a small country. It's a huge landmass wise, but population wise, it's quite small. Smaller than I think it's smaller than Italy, smaller than France, smaller than the UK for sure, smaller than a lot of those. Yet the the participation rate amongst bartenders is through the roof when it comes to competitions like this. So it is an incredibly, incredibly tough area to get out of. I remember the first time I came here, I was like, awesome, I'm going to take advantage of being in Australia. I didn't know how long I would be here, but I'll take advantage of being in Australia for a few years and, I'll have this easier competition market than if I moved back to the United States. And I quickly realized that that's not the case.
No.
It's not the case at all. I'm not going to say it's harder here because, again, I've never competed there, but it's not just because there's a smaller population doesn't necessarily mean it's automatically easier to get through. So
Yeah.
I mean that's interesting, and a lot of people don't know that.
It's so funny because I kind of cut my teeth in Sydney in the bartending world,
Yeah,
and
you're from Australia, so the
yeah,
ultimate in this conversation.
thank you very much.
An Australian interviewing somebody who's not from Australia but competing in Australia.
I'm glad you can see the irony in it, man.
Yeah,
Uh, you know, for me, it was when I made the switch to move to Sweden, and I kind of had that same thought that all right, I'm moving to a smaller market, so I'm coming from a big city. How easy can this be? Uh, but it's not the case. I think when you're competing, and especially when you're living abroad and when you're moving around so much, you have to understand that you know bartending is global now, and
sure,
I, I,
100%.
li- I live in a really tiny little city, about 2 hours south of Stockholm, And here we have world-class bars, you know.
Yeah.
So I think having that naivety going in, you know, you kind of need to be a little bit more self-aware about where you are and who you are and who you're competing with. And I think,
Sure.
like you said at the top of this, more competition, it breeds better results. And I think you're right, man.
Yeah, and I think it's so easy to assume that you know what a market's going to be like, or because it's smaller that it will be easier, or at least there's less competition. But it's you're only going to hurt yourself if you make those assumptions. If you go in with assumptions like that, and you think you're only going to hurt yourself. And you got to go in and understand the market, because each market is so unique. And of course, with globalization and technology, bartenders learn and share a bunch of knowledge with each other all over the world. But there's still those unique little things in each market that make it its own thing. And if you don't take the time to understand that, then you're very unlikely to me to succeed. And it's a very important thing.
And how are you finding the support from the Bacardi team over in Australia?
Oh, I think it's great. I know the Bacardi team quite well. I made it through. I was lucky enough to make it through to top 8 last year, so I kind of knew how the whole process worked. I knew the guys already, and I knew the way the competition worked, if that makes sense, because every competition is unique, and I knew the way Bacardi Legacy was, and I knew why I didn't succeed last year, and so I took all that on board when I kind of built my campaign this year, and the support has been great. My team here, not here, I'm currently in Queensland, but my team in Victoria, where I'm based, is phenomenal. It's not like they've gone. Well, I would say they have gone over and above, but it's not like they've done anything that you would think like that's so overreaching. They've done it like out of passion. You can tell they really care. It's not like they're taking. It doesn't feel like they're taking time out of their days to go like to help me, but it just feels like they just really enjoy helping me, and it's a part of what they enjoy doing. So they just do it, which is really awesome. So their support's been great, and Australia Bacardi as well has been phenomenal. The way they run the competition here, I've found, is just really, really, really inclusive, really transparent in the way everything works, and just really, really fun. So yeah, I can't really speak highly enough about how Bacardi Australia has handled Legacy and done Legacy in my second year involved in the competition. That's been awesome.
I think that's one thing that it's a common thing that comes up in a couple of these chats that I've had. You know, we always hear about this Bacardi family, right? And it's so easy to think that okay, well that's marketing. You know, these are just empty words, but it's really true. You know, ambassadors.
Oh yeah, 100% here.
You know, my ambassador. Shout out to Jimmy Huth. You know, he's phenomenal. He's on holidays right now in Spain,
Yeah.
and I'm texting him all the time. I'm like, hey, dude, I just had this idea. Can I buy a car? Can I graffiti the car? And can I drive it to Spain? And he tells me like, no, dude, don't do that. I'm like, okay.
Yeah. Oh man, if you're giving shout outs, I got to shout out to Georgie, man. Like, I swear to God, I feel so bad, because the thing about Georgie is we knew each other and we were friends before we were in kind of this capacity, before she worked for Bacardi and before she was now like my brand ambassador, who, you know, had to essentially deal with me texting her stupid ideas all the time. And I love her to bits for it, because I can tell when she's in texting and she's like, Will, why would you, like, I was like, well, I'm throwing things at the wall and I'm going to see what sticks. Yeah. And she's just been unreal about it. And I can't give them enough credit, and her and as well, shout out to Nick Salvadori, who handles a lot of Victoria and what they do here in terms of repping in my state. And those two have just been, yeah. But again, they were friends already. And so they're just sitting there like, I'm texting them on Christmas Day, like, yo, I want to get this done, but I need it done by the 27th. And there they are, like, texting me back. And I feel bad. I'm like, I know you've got, you know, like, your own personal life, but oops, sorry, this is Bacardi Legacy. I feel bad. I wish I felt more bad, but I don't. But that's the way it is. And they've just been unreal about it.
But I think that there's a lesson in there that you kind of have to put yourself forward, and they respect you for taking that initiative, and for annoying them, and for going, out of your zone as well. Because I think from what Jimmy told me, he said to me, he's like, I want a legacy winner from Sweden to be on it. all the time, you know?
Yeah, because it starts now. It's still, well,
Yeah,
it started way before. But even if you go to globals, like it started, they're gonna look back at everything. It started way before. So it's crucial. And I will say on that note as well. Sorry, just talking about Bacardi family is I was lucky enough to go to London. What was that now? About a month and a half ago, a little less, 5 6 weeks ago, and the London team there. As soon as we hit them up and we were like, hey, I was like, what's up? My name's Will. Few mutual friends. Can I, I'm coming through London. I want to do this pop up. Want to do something with you guys. And they were like right there straight away, as if I was one of their competitors almost. May, who is the shout out to her, UK brand ambassador for Bacardi, based out of London. She was just unreal, and it was as if I was really one of her competitors. And she instantly hooked me up and helped me sort out whatever I wanted to do. We ended up doing a wicked guest shift, a trailer happiness. It was an awesome night and all that stuff. And it was as if, like, again, it was as if I was one of her competitors. And I thought that was really, really cool. And then it's funny because I've actually never met May. She was actually sick that night and she couldn't come down to the event. But the entire time she was texting me, hey, did the menus come through okay? Did this happen? This is on a Sunday night, late November, London, disgusting weather. Everyone's getting ready for Christmas. And she was, boom, on it, even though she was sick, like making sure like I was looked after and everything. It was really, really impressive. I'll say it really, really stood out to me.
I've had a similar experience just right before we jumped on this radical hang. I spoke with Sami. She's the BA over in Kenya.
Yeah, right.
And I'm working on a project with her out in East Africa, and I just met her on Instagram. I'm hitting all you guys up all the time.
Yeah.
Every morning, and she's doing some really cool things out there. And I sent her a message saying, "Hey, I've got to find a way to work with you." And she calls me back. She's like, "Done, call me." Okay, so I give her a call, and we're on the phone for about 90 minutes. And at the end of the phone call, you're like, "Fuck, dude, I feel like we're
Yeah, exactly.
I don't know if I was saying family, but you feel really connected, and you're connected together, based off Bacardi rum, and that's a really beautiful thing.
Yeah. Super, super personable. Everybody you're in the family. Really, it's kind of sounds like a cliche to say like you're in the family and stuff, but it really does become that. And the whole team itself has just been super personable and made you feel really inclusive. And yeah, can't speak enough for that. That's something that seems easy, but is often quite hard to achieve, I would say. They do really well.
Do you find that your ethnicity, your not being Australian, has helped you at all in any kind of format?
Helped me. Oh, that's an interesting question. I don't know if I ever thought I would. I
Because
almost maybe it's my naivety, but I almost thought maybe be asked if it would hurt me. Helped me. I don't. I don't. I mean, maybe you could like push the argument that because it's a slight point of difference. Maybe if everyone's used to hearing an Australian, that there's maybe some sort of weird psychological. Oh, it's like a different accent. So you're hearing that. So it's you know what I mean. They've heard the same Australian accent or the same kind of push and the same thing. Same thing. Maybe that, but I don't think so.
Yeah,
Um,
I know it's a tough
not
thing,
that I
but
can pinpoint.
maybe because you're coming from English speaking to English speaking. But
Yeah, yeah.
what I noticed from me coming from Australia to Sweden is there is a clear advantage for me personally because I'm exotic. I'm different.
Sure, sure.
And for those who are watching this, and if you are a bartender working abroad and wanting to compete abroad, don't let your difference be something that holds you back. It's
Yeah.
oftentimes it's a huge advantage. It endears you to people.
Yeah, I guess that's a good point. I guess I don't have to think of myself as exotic. I'm a white boy from the Midwest, Cleveland, Ohio. So I think people in Australia, when I come up to play somewhere like Cairns, or maybe if I'm doing a few events, pop-ups in Perth, and they've got, they're like surfers, Aussie as. I think I am the least exotic thing. I think I am very unexotic to them out there. To me anyway. Maybe if some, like some, Brazilian or Italian, something like that, it's really different cultural wise. But I think it's like you drop an English person in Australia. I don't think they're different, sure, but there's a million. It's not exotic. So I don't think I'm quite exotic in that sense. But
Maybe
yeah,
there's maybe there's room for you to put on a
maybe
little
maybe I
Italian
need,
accent.
yeah, maybe I need to be playing that card a little bit more or finding a way to exploit that. Never really looked at it that way.
You could always go full redneck.
Yeah, but then I'd have to go full redneck, and that's just that's just not in me. Um, but yeah, no, I never looked at it that way. It's interesting, interesting way to look at it.
Bro, you said something that I really want to go back onto. You said that last year you failed to progress past top eight, and you knew what you did wrong.
Yeah.
What was it? Like, what was that one thing that you wish you could have changed?
Well, there are a few things, and I would say, I mean, like Bacardi Legacy. I think everyone who's listening, well, most if any bartenders are listening in, they mostly know what Bacardi Legacy is. And Bacardi Legacy is a cocktail competition. It's a drink competition. But once you progress to this stage, it is as much a marketing competition. And I don't think I'm wrong to say that. I think they're shy in saying that. You can look at the points breakdown, the way it's point breakdowns, and the way it's judged. There are points for marketing and marketing reach and social. All this stuff is looked at and taken into consideration. And that is a lot of that is going to stem from your inspiration, from the components that go into your drink. There's so many facets involved. So I think my drink last year was a great drink. It wasn't similar to this one. There were similarities, but it was vastly different in the end. But I think my inspiration was a bit not not vague, but it wasn't entirely marketable to a global audience. It was quite specific actually. It was actually the opposite of vague. It was very very specific. It was inspired by a trip I had done to a place in China, and I could go into more and more detail, but it was very very specific on this one kind of temple, this one place that I'd gone. And so if I'm Bacardi and I'm looking to take that kind of to a global stage. Well, I realize it's not something that's like kind of globally marketable. So I think that was one point that was wrong. Was my inspiration wasn't quite broadly marketable enough. No, I don't think they want it to be, your name is called like your drink is called respect, and it's just all about respecting people. Like they don't want it to be that broad, right? Like it has to be something personal. It has to be something that you find. It has to be something personal that ties into you. You have to be able to convey emotion when you talk about it, and it has to come from inside you. I mean, after all, Jacob Briers talks about it. That's what makes a true legacy drink, true modern classic. There has to be a true inspiration behind it, but it can't be so pinpointed that other people can't relate to it. People have to be able to relate to the inspiration you're talking about. So I think that was the first part I went wrong. And the second part, and I think this is funny, is Bacardi Legacy, the rules for the drinks you can enter have changed. They have over time. And it's not surprising in terms of especially in terms of what they consider globally or regularly available ingredients. Now, my drink last year had a lot of Asian influenced ingredients. It had fresh yuzu and Szechuan peppercorn and stuff that, by the rules, you could say, yes, I would argue anybody in any major city has some sort of Asian market, and they could go down and get Szechuan peppercorn, and they could go down and you can find yuzu juice. I would argue that with today's availability and the way the trade works out, you can find that stuff. But does that mean it's a drink that if I were to offer to you and we were to do some sort of menu exchange that you could easily do? Probably not. You'd have to go through the time to source that. If you were to put my drink, if let's say you weren't a super high-end cocktail bar that even, maybe you might not even, if I go to a pub or a bar, you might not even know what Szechuan peppercorn is. And so if I go to you, or yuzu for that matter, so if I go to you with that, is that really a Bacardi Legacy drink? Like, yes, it fits within the confines of the rules to me, but it doesn't quite excel at what they're looking for, I think. So taking something like that and realizing like, yeah, those are great drinks. Maybe in 5 years, we'll see how the world goes. But in replacing that with pineapple syrup, which is something that is, amazing and fresh and when done well, just delicious, but also very commonly available. And everyone knows what a pineapple is. Whether or not you work in a high-end cocktail bar to your pub pouring pints, you know what pineapple is. And throwing in a bit of fresh lime peel, simple things like that are the little twists that make a Bacardi Legacy drink, but are also actually commonly available, if that makes sense. So I think that's interesting, and I've looked at a lot of competitors, and I'm not saying I think anybody's drink is better than anybody's, but I see some, and you can see that technically they're within the rules. But I'm like, man, if I wanted to menu that drink in my venue, I'd have to go through some effort. I'd have to go through some energy. I'd have to source that ingredient. I'm sure I can find. I live in Melbourne. I can find any ingredient. If you can find it in the world, you can find it. It's in terms of the Southern Hemisphere, you can find any sort of ingredient in that city. But it doesn't mean that it's a commonly. You know what I mean? It doesn't mean that it kind of fits that mold of what you want in terms of a commonly available ingredient, even if it kind of technically is. So those were the two things I changed that were massive for me. I made my inspiration more personal. Well, kept it just as personal, but also made it more commonly kind of approachable, like commonly relatable, I guess I would say. And then I just made the ingredients. I don't want to say more simple, but just a little more relatable as well. Something that people could really ingredients that people already knew what they were. They didn't have to jump on Google and be like, "What is this?" and go to their super unique niche supermarket to find. They could just get it at their own local supermarket. So that was the two big things for me, and seems to be doing well so far. I don't know. We'll see how we go.
Yeah, it's fantastic, man. I think that was something that, for me personally, I had at the forefront of my mind at all times. Be global, but keep it accessible. And it sounds really easy to say, all right, we'll just make your drink accessible. But then, how do you make a unique, standout drink accessible?
Accessible but unique. Yeah.
And I think that that's the challenge. And it took me 2 months, man, of drinking heavily. I'd get home from work, have a shower, and then bam, start making some drinks again. And you're drinking all the time, and
what's right, what's not, what's working.
Yeah, so I think don't get hung up on don't be married to certain ingredients.
100%.
Sometimes you just have to look at what you have, take a step back away, and then say, like, no, that's not working. That needs to change, or can I modify it? So, for example, Cubist had I wanted to use star of anise.
Can you tell us about the Cubist, like full ingredients first?
Sure, man. So it's 45 mils Carta Blanca, and then 20 mils Martini Extra Dry, 20 mils honey water, 25 mils fresh lemon, 2.5 mils pasty, and then topped with sparkling wine.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, so really, really simple. The concept behind it was fragmentation and the Cubist movement. So taking something that was conventional, taking something that was the status quo, and then shifting it in such a drastic, radical way that life couldn't be the same without it.
Sure. I'll dig it.
So I wanted to take these ingredients: lemon, honey, rum. These are the status quo. This is your holy trinity: sour, sweet, and booze. And I wanted to introduce a little bit of fragmentation, something that made you kind of think, right, well, what the hell is that? Do I like it? Do I not like it? What am I feeling? And that's where the pasty came in. So pasty is one of those things that you either love it or you don't really know you love it yet.
No, I'll disagree with that, and that's a conversation we can have another time. But I've got a funny story about that one. But sure, I'll let you keep going.
Yeah, there was one thing that I knew that that was going to be a challenge for me for some people.
Yeah.
But just a bar spoon of it, it's perfect. It cuts through the acidity. It balances out the sweetness. You don't get that huge, licoricey hit. And I think all the ingredients really encapsulate both an aspect of the story that I'm putting forth, and also the concept and my perspective of how I see art, how it should be delivered, and how we should process and interpret what an artistic form is.
Yeah, wicked. I dig it.
So, I guess going back to making things accessible, I wanted to make a cardamom and star of anise syrup. And I made it, and it was
technically within the bounds, technically within the rules of Bacardi Legacy.
And much easier than finding like ugly fruit, for example.
Yeah.
But I made it. I made the syrup. I added it in, and I thought, "Fuck! Like, yes, it's amazing." And then I thought, okay, if Will in Melbourne sends me this saying, "Hey, bro, I just need you to go ahead and add some cardamom and star of anise into some honey water," I'm like, I'm not going to do it, bro. Like,
yeah, mate. Yeah.
If I don't have cardamom, I'm not going out and buying it. So I had to boil it down. I was really married to the star of anise. I was really married with the cardamom, and I just had to say, like, Cardamom, I've got to let you go. It's been great. I'll save you for a menu drink. This is what I'm going with. I'm using pastis.
It's great because a lot of bars probably have that dusty bottle of pastis sitting up on the back bar anyway, and they're like, sick.
I can use
something
it.
something I can use this now. Awesome.
Yeah.
That's
So
exactly it.
I think it's a process. It's
Yeah.
and it can be a stressful process as well because you've come out the back end of competing in world class where it's a completely different competition and it's all about
So
how
different.
how crazy can you go,
Yeah.
and you have to stay native.
No,
You have to. What was that, buddy?
I said there are no limits in world class. It's just go, go, go. Like whatever you can think, do it. Go for it.
Yeah, and whereas Bacardi is it's more inclusive. It's more bringing people together through this one common red thread. And that being the rum. So and another little piece of advice for people is know your competition.
Sure.
Know what the message of the brand is, and know don't. So I suppose the easy way to put it is stay within your lane.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, you have to know the competition. I think a lot of people do without sidetracking too much. A lot of bartenders like they go to do competitions. Like I have this amazing drink, and so this competition came up where I can actually use that rum Coleman to do it. But it's like, does that drink fit that competition? And knowing that that's a really big thing. Knowing what the brand wants, what the company wants, is a very important thing.
Yeah,
which took me a few years to figure out, but yeah, it's a very important thing. I
suppose,
dig it.
yeah, that's kind of why I wanted to do this. One, it helps you promoting yours. Two, it helps me promoting me. But more importantly, it goes up online. We forget about it in 5 years, and maybe one or two people will look at this and they say, okay,
Yeah.
like these are some nice little nuggets of knowledge.
100%. It's funny. I'm sorry. I just want to go back to this because I laughed when you brought up the pastis, and I laughed when I saw it in your recipe. So for the life of me, it's like some people with I don't know what you call it in Sweden but in Australia it's called coriander. In the United States it's called cilantro.
Yeah,
I don't mind the stuff, but some people it tastes like soap to them, and they just hate it? It's just instinctively inherently in them. Well, that to me is star anise. I hate it with a passion. And so my partner, she is French. She is French. Her dad, who is sitting in the living room right now, I said we're on holiday. He's sitting 5 meters from me right now. They of course, they're French. They love pastis. The first time I visited her in south of France, I'm sorry, I visited her family in the south of France. She told me this was going to happen. She told her grandpa that. How's the little one doing? He's all right. He's passed out. She told me, look, I told him you hate pastis. This is a 90-year-old dude. She's like, he's gonna come up to you and offer you a pastis and water, and if you say no, like you got to impress her. You can't say no. So I was like, fuck, all right, like we're gonna do this. And so of course, sure thing. He comes up, offers me a pastis and water. This was like 2 years ago, and I was like, yeah, no worries, took it, and the whole family just watched me as I smashed it. And I literally was like holding back from throwing up. Star anise just does something to me. I just can't handle the flavor. And so he just kind of laughed and he said, all right, you don't ever have to drink pastis again. It's okay. Like, no worries. So when I saw your drink had pastis and I was just like, oh no. Like, that being said, I really do love the accent of a bit of absinthe, a bit of anise. A dash in a zombie, which to me, I work in the tiki bar, is so a dash in a zombie, I think, makes the drink. I love a corpse survivor, a little bit of rinse in there. As an accent, I love it, but it just has a flavor itself. I just can't even.
Yeah,
No, just can't do it.
That was one thing that when I made the drink, I said to myself, I'm like, okay, any more than a bar spoon, and
yeah,
it's fucked. And
using it as a bitters, it's an amazing to use as a bitters. A dash here and there is incredible, but yeah, just as a flavor, no.
I when I was writing up the menu, I had it as a dash, but then when I measured it out, I was like, bro, it's like 15 dashes. I'm not going to put 15 dashes.
Not enough.
I was like, I'm not going to put 15 dashes on the menu.
I haven't tried your drink yet, but I'm really excited to because that'll be the test. If I like it with the pastis, I'll be like, man, I hate pastis, and this has 2.5 mils. If I like it, that'll be on point.
Hey man, please do me a favor.
I'll do
Film
it.
it,
I'll do a. What's up?
film yourself, make it,
Yeah,
film yourself drinking it, and I want a live reaction.
yeah. As I was about to say, I'll do a live reaction video of me tasting it. We'll just see how it goes.
And I think it's one of those things that I said yesterday to White Raj over in Malaysia is don't be scared if that's what you like and you know that it's an adverse flavor. Like if you put coriander or cilantro, if you put
Yeah, yeah.
if you put this in a cocktail, and if you know that that's what your heart is set on that, you know it makes the drink, you know it's a great flavor, but you also know that a couple of people may be a little bit kind of
Might
stand up.
rub them the wrong way. Yeah.
You know, I don't think you should let that really hold you back from pursuing a certain ingredient because, hey, man, I've met some people that don't like a daiquiri.
Of course. And that's exactly it. And you just make the drink you stand by. And again, if it fits your inspiration, your legacy, and it's something you enjoy drinking, then stand by it. Because if you change it, you try and change it for other people, then it's not going to be genuine. You know what I mean? It's not going to be genuinely from you. And the moment it's not genuinely from you is the moment it's in this competition, it's going to be sifted out by the judges and it's going to be lost. And they can pick up on that so quickly. And so, yeah, you've got to stay true to that 100%.
Absolutely, man. Promise me something. If you and I make it to the global finals, you owe me a shot of pasty.
Sounds good. We will. If we make it to the global finals, if I make it, I will happily get drunk on pasties. I will do what I can. We will have a few.
I'm sure
We'll
there's
see.
a
Well, maybe not. Well, responsibly drunk. That is responsibly drinking. But we will have a few, man. I will enjoy as much pasties to you as you'd like, for sure.
that's right. You're back in Australia. You have to put disclaimers everywhere. Drink responsibly. I'm in Europe, baby. It's a lawless land.
Sure, sure.
Hey man, talk to me a little bit about your ingredients.
Oh
And,
yes. Yeah.
and explain to people why you chose to do a pineapple syrup as opposed to breaking it down from pineapple juice along with the sugar syrup.
Okay. So firstly, the ingredients. I'll run through them. Bacardi Casablanca. As I'm here on my holiday, enjoying a bit. Shout out to Bacardi. Keeping it.
If it wasn't 2 o'clock, I'd have a shot with you.
Yeah, yeah, no, 100%. Well, it's what is it? 11 o'clock here, 11 p.m. So I'm in holiday mode. So why not have one or two responsibly? So 60 mils Bacardi Casablanca, 15 mils fresh lime juice, fresh lime peel, and the pineapple syrup. So 25 mils of pineapple syrup. So I'll touch on the lime peel. Lime peel, my drink, Altura. Altura is Spanish for height. My drink was inspired by the Cuban cantoneros. So the original kind of Cuban bartenders who existed pre-prohibition, but kind of didn't quite get a lot of recognition they deserved. Once prohibition hits, and a lot of American bartenders flocked to Cuba along with American tourists, and then kind of after that, a lot of people just kind of assumed that Cuban bartending came about because of prohibition, whereas in fact it actually existed far before that. And one of the tricks that Cuban cantoneros used to do is they would chuck a bit of fresh lime peel into a shaker as they shake the drink. Now, a lot of bartenders and quote unquote mixologists will note that, of course, you chuck a bit of fresh grapefruit peel into a drink. And it's a regall. It's a way of kind of getting a nice kind of bitter peel and kind of bitter, bright, oily sort of flavor out of the grapefruit. And you chuck that into a shaker, let it go, and again. But the Cuban bartenders, they used to do it as well with the lime peel. And so I thought that was a really cool thing when I first came across that. I thought that's something that's awesome that also isn't quite recognized in today's world of mixology. So I incorporated that for them. And then the pineapple syrup for me was a way of just kind of paying homage to them and paying homage to the entire hospitality industry. We all know the pineapple is the sort of unofficial, or probably official, I guess, symbol of hospitality. So I wanted to incorporate the pineapple, just kind of symbolize what they did and kind of hospitality as a whole. So that's where the name Altura comes in. So height. I wanted to kind of showcase people who are bringing industries to new heights, which to me the Cuban cantoneros did. So tying that all together, you've got the two ingredients, the lime peel, pineapple syrup, just kind of help symbolize what it was the Cuban cantoneros did to kind of raise up the bartending industry in their time, especially during Prohibition, to a new level. The pineapple syrup, how I made it and why I made it that way. again, we talked earlier about how you can ingredients in theory to us should be simple, but in actuality they're kind of not. If you look at a pineapple syrup and you read a lot of recipes, people will kind of speak about it as doing sort of an oleosaccharum, where they will kind of like let it rest with a bit of sugar, which is a great way to do it. And like that sugar kind of draws out the oils and the juices of the pineapple, let it sit overnight. But I'm realizing if I want to ask you to put that drink on your menu in Sweden, it's like that's a lot of prep time, right? You've got to kind of put it in the fridge, kind of come back to it tomorrow, kind of blitz it down, maybe do a bit of measurement. It's not. I want it to be really as easy as possible. And I realized, how do we make a 1-to-1 sugar syrup? We just take equal weights of water and sugar. Why can't we do that with fresh pineapple juice? Why go through all the extra steps and making a pineapple syrup and then cutting that with sugar syrup? Why not just sub out the water for fresh pineapple juice? And so I did it, and it was delicious. And it's the way my venues now, my venue, the way where I work at. It's the way we make our pineapple syrup now, and it's incredible and it's super simple. And so I want to do that because I want it to be easily accessible. Anybody who has, well, really anybody who has a blender or has a really, really strong stirring hand can, if they don't have a juicer, they can go down to their local juicer, order a pineapple juice for $5 in Australia, $6 in Australia, whatever it is, wherever you're at. Order a fresh pineapple juice, go back, and you can take equal parts of that with white sugar, stir it down till the sugar is dissolved, and you've got enough pineapple syrup to make you a heck of a lot of Alturas, and that pineapple syrup will last for a good amount of time, a couple weeks, and then maybe it'll become a bit of tepache. It'll ferment a little bit, and it'll become tepache. You know what I mean? You can have fun with that and do what you want with that. So it was the whole idea was take an ingredient that outside of tiki bars you don't see a lot of. Pineapple syrup is not something a lot of bars, classic bars, keep on hand. Well, in all actuality, you look at it and you go, wow, all I have to do is juice a bit of pineapple and combine it 1-to-1 with sugar, and it's just incredibly easy, incredibly delicious. So that was kind of the idea there.
And super important as well is it's batchable.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And I
Fresh
think
lime juice is the only thing in there that's a bit tough, but outside of that, everything is, yeah.
I think I'm talking to a lot of guys around the world who are doing boomerangs, and I
Yeah.
notice more and more. There's one guy from the top of my head, I can't remember him, or his Instagram handle, but he does this campaign is hashtag just add Bacardi, and
Yeah. Yeah. That's
you know
good.
everything's inside this bottle. He's sending these bottles to venues, and I mean that's brilliant. You look at
Yeah,
it.
I was just gonna say it's a bit tough for me with the lime juice on that one. I mean, I could say just add Bacardi, but I'm not sure I would advocate for not using fresh lime juice. But that's just me. But yeah, no, it's really smart when people do that. And you see the guys with which we are not, but guys with stirred down drinks, and I've seen them batch them, and I'm like, oh, in this moment, like, yeah, that really worked out well for you, didn't it? You could just batch up your whole drink and just bang it. You could pre-dilute it if you want. Just say, put me in the fridge, and just pour it out, like, and boom, ready to go.
Put me in the fridge. That's gonna be my next
Keep
year's
that for next.
campaign.
Yeah. Hashtag put me in the fridge. Hashtag chill me. Or hashtag I'm chill. Oh, I'm just but I will actually, if you don't mind, I want to elaborate a bit more on that. It was really important for me as well with the Altura. It was inspired by people who helped raise industries to new heights, but I didn't just want to stop it there. I think for me, a big thing with Bacardi Legacy in the past, I've hosted drinks in my venue from other people in the past. And I kind of looked at it and I said, well, what does that do for anybody? Not that I'm not about doing something for Bacardi or doing something for the bartender, but how can we kind of do something for somebody else beyond that? And so for me, Altura was really important. I'm putting in a lot of energy, putting in a lot of time. I'm sitting here right now on my holiday, talking with you. It's taking. No, I'm just kidding. It's not. I enjoy it. It's not taking too much time. Man, I could be on the beach right now. No, I'm kidding. It's 11 o'clock at night. I wouldn't be on the beach. But no, it's true. We put a lot of time and energy into this, and I said, well, if I'm going to do that, and God forbid I don't win, that's fair enough. But what can I do to at least kind of benefit somebody else beyond that? So that was really important for me. And again, with my drink, Altura, raising industries and raising people and helping people get to new heights. So I was really, really fortunate. A former Australian bartender who worked at a few very notable venues in Sydney started up an organization called 663 to 0, which helps bring clean drinking water to, well, his goal is to bring it from 663 million people in the world who don't have access to clean drinking water down to 0. But he started in Uganda. So I've actually paired with him. And in all the venues where my drink is being featured, or most, I should say. I'm not making a requirement, but pretty much everyone has been very enthusiastically on board with this. $2 or a select amount, but roughly $2 actually gets donated to him. So in the end, we're putting in this time and this energy, and but we're not looking to just benefit ourselves. If this campaign ends, in early February during my national finals, then fair enough. But that won't be kind of the end of the impact of Altura. It will go on far-reaching from there. When we did the pop-up in London, we actually donated proceeds from each drink sold to the Grenfell Tower community, which was the tower that had a super tragic fire about roughly a year ago, which unfortunately I'm sure everyone remembers. And so it's kind of about creating a bit of a. We talk about legacy all the time, and I think that word gets thrown around quite. Sorry, I've got wild bugs flying into my porch here in Kansas. That term gets thrown around quite frivolously, if that makes sense, in the global competition. And it's like, well, how do we really build a legacy? And I think building a legacy is something beyond us, and it's kind of building past us. Is if this drink campaign ends tomorrow, what actually will that impact be? Will it be just me selling a bunch of drinks for myself and selling a bunch of Bacardi, or will it actually be making an impact for somebody somewhere else? And so that was important for me. And so that was also a very, very big aspect, or that is a very, very big aspect of my campaign that I kind of, even if I don't make it through to the global finals, that I hope to kind of keep carrying on. So yeah, I just wanted to get that in there because I think it was a very, very important part for me of my campaign and why I'm putting the energy to do what I do.
I think that's fantastic. And it's one of those things that I'm starting to see more and more of. As I dig deeper into legacy and the more I start contacting people like yourself from around the world, it's this general consensus of it's not just about me. And I think that's why for me legacy is such a great project, because we're connecting with each other, we're helping each other. For me, it's about spreading perspectives and spreading knowledge and spreading interpretations of how we see and define things. And that was a really big driving force behind these radical hangouts. That I wanted to share something in a different format than was just rather than just Facebook and Instagram. And it was also a big thing as to why I reached out.
Smart, by the way. I really enjoy it.
Oh, thanks, man. Appreciate it. I hadn't seen it before, actually. I really thought to myself,
it's really cool, man.
Yeah, and it's opening up so many doors for me. Like I said, I'm speaking with Sammy over in East Africa, and she's got a bar academy that I'll help be sponsoring. And you have all of these competitors, and it feels like everyone is kind of donating some sort of nominal amount to some charity. And if it's $10, if it's $10 million, it's fantastic. It really branches out and shows that we're stepping outside of the bar, we're stepping outside of our industry, and we're influencing more than just, like you said, the individual, which is amazing.
100%. That's one thing I want to ask you, and it's kind of a common thing I noticed that we both have is the sparkling wine. Kind of switching topics a bit, but the sparkling wine that we both have in our drinks, and how that kind of worked for you, and how you worked that into your drink, and how you kind of think it benefited you, and why you chose it.
Yeah, I chose it because I hadn't seen it progress very far within Legacy. I'm sure that's maybe something that you had as well. Yeah, and I wanted to try and go off trends. People were using a lot of oils. People were using beer for the longest time. People were using yogurts and creams.
The oil garnish, like on top. I've seen that a lot of times. No, it's a bad thing, but yeah, you want to try and do something different, right? Separate yourself.
Yeah, and I saw saline solution everywhere. And I said to myself, like, okay, well, I haven't seen highballs really progress a lot, and I haven't seen flutes, or I haven't seen sparkling drinks progress. And I love a sparkling cocktail. The older I get, the slower I'm drinking, the more I want to savor, the more I want to enjoy. And so I tend to lean towards a champagne cocktail or a sparkling wine cocktail. And I think
it's surprising that it hasn't. It's surprising to me that you haven't seen as many sparkling wine drinks, or any sparkling wine drinks for that matter, go very far. I'm sorry, I don't mean to cut you off. I'm not sure you had next, but yeah, it really quite surprised me in that.
And to be honest with you, you're the only person that I've actually seen that has sparkling wine in their drinks.
Yeah.
And I've got 63 people lined up to do these hangouts. So out of
Jeez, man.
out of 64 people so far, I haven't seen a single person. So I suppose, like we said in the beginning, take advantage of your difference. Take something and take a lot of pride in knowing that, okay, well, I'm going to stand out a little bit, but I'm doing it within my own constructs and what I like to drink.
Yeah, I think what sparkling wine can do for a drink is incredible. I mean, don't get me wrong, I'm not going to sit here and try and knock on a classic mojito. I love a classic mojito, but I don't, if I sit there and think about why I love that drink, I don't love it because of the soda.
Yeah,
It's not that reason why I love that drink. It's not, there's generally, if I'm getting over crushed ice or I'm getting however, there's not this bright effervescence that's popping out to me. There's this really beautiful balance between the rum, the lime, and the sugar and the mint, but it's not the effervescence that generally does it for me. I drink something like an old Cuban, and I'm like, well, now I get that effervescence and that mouthfeel and that texture. And so it always really surprised me that there was no general use of sparkling wine in a drink. And that's why I was curious on why you did it, because that was a big reason why I did it, is because A, I was really shocked that it had never been done before, and B, I just thought what it lends to a drink, and what it lends to a drink that can be replicable all over the world is a lot.
yeah.
It lends quite a lot in its ability to dry out flavors and add mouthfeel and add texture and effervescence, but as body as well, without just being merely extra dilution and bubbles, as soda tends to be.
There's 2 points to that. First one is when I was constructing Cubist, I'm sure you've seen. I have this really kind of acid, trippy style. Yeah,
I like it.
yeah. I'm. That's the kind of art that I enjoy. I enjoy outsider art. I enjoy surrealism. I enjoy abstractionism. Um, and what I found was the sparkling wine contrasted, that elegance really contrasted this dirty kind of heroin junkie style of art that I really like. And I'm all about paradoxes, and I'm all about juxtapositions, and that's where I kind of, for me personally, it's something that I really wanted to play on, and it's worked out really well so far.
Fantastic, man.
But I think when I don't know if I'm sure somebody's told you before, but one piece of advice that I got was when we're doing these legacy presentations and we're using sparkling wines, you have to know where that measurement is.
Oh yeah,
Half a mil under or over, and
breaks
you're out.
everything.
Yeah, because
I take it a step further with mine. This is something that I R&D'd quite rigorously. Is a mentor of mine brought it up to me. Is he said, well, do you top it up at the end or do you pour it over? And that's something I think that's often overlooked. Is you make a French 75 or whatever, and you just top it up. But what are you really topping up? So not only have I like very specifically said, which again, this is the one part where I found can be a bit tough in terms of, well, if the toughest part is asking people to measure what they pour into a glass, well, then I'm sorry, I don't know what to tell them. But this is the one thing that I found to be a bit tough, as I'm saying, like, look, it needs to be 30 mils dead on of a nice dry sparkling wine, but obviously quite dry in flavor, and also the drink needs to be strained over that sparkling wine. That's something for me that I found with my drink that before a couple of years ago, a mentor of mine pointed out, I never really thought of. I always thought you just shake the drinks, or sorry, strain the drink out, top it up with sparkling wine, and that's the way it goes. And then he said, okay, hold on. And we did two drinks side by side. And I don't even remember the drink, but I've done it side by side with my drink just to kind of see. And pouring it over and straining it over with the sparkling wine already in the glass did wonders to the mouthfeel, to the texture, to the finish. It elongated the finish like brilliantly. And I couldn't believe it. And it's one of those really little subtle things that when I looked at it and I said, wow, like that makes a difference between that's a good drink and that's a legacy drink.
Yeah.
It makes a difference between those two. And it's the same. It's that 1 ml. A lot of times it's just, top up with sparkling. When I read a spec and it's top up with soda, top up with sparkling, I cringe. I'm like, you've got to have that exact, because that's your dilution, that's your effervescence, that's your that's everything. And if you're just going to top up with that, your glass changes sizes as you go. I mean, it's you're making a completely different drink.
Yeah.
You're asking for trouble with that.
And I think that's such a great point, because what you inevitably end up getting is just sparkling, and then
Exactly. It's not fully
variation of the
incorporated.
daiquiri.
Exactly. It's not fully incorporated. It's not the way it tastes through your palate is different. You're going to get things at different stages, and that's, I mean, when you really get into the details, that is very important, where things hit your palate and how they hit them and the stages.
So when
Yeah,
you measure, sorry, man.
Sorry.
When you're
No, I was just
measuring
gonna
out
say,
your 30 mils, are you measuring in a jigger? And if you are measuring in a jigger, are you losing a lot of that effervescence?
that is a problem. You do lose a bit. I try and this is a bit of, I guess this is the what's the word I'm looking for? It's kind of the challenge with Legacy is I say, yeah, use 30 mils of sparkling, but I'm also not going to include instructions on how to pour sparkling into a jigger. I mean, obviously, if you can slowly pour it down the side, you will lose a little bit, little less. The fresher the bottle, the better. But I've found it's just that effervescence is just that hit. It's not, if you look at certain drinks, like a French 75 is a good example, there's going to be a lot more effervescence in that drink than there is mine, in terms of the total ratio of the liquid in the glass. Mine is a lot less than that. So, I mean, with our guys in-house, we try and, everything as fresh as possible, and then pour it on the side of the jigger. And you've got to kind of slowly try and pour it down on the side of the flute. But I don't want to impart those kind of instructions onto people making it other places, because that's the point where, to me, it kind of loses that like legacy luster. Yeah. I'm being super instructive about it. I found if it's not the freshest sparkling in the world, and that's the idea of the drink, is I don't expect you to, you're not pulling out champagne. In Australia, champagne's expensive as hell, so I don't expect anybody to be pulling that out. It's a dry house sparkling. It's just there. There he is. Oh, he's waking up a bit.
Yeah, give me a keep talking about your sparkling.
You do what you got to do. The idea is it just kind of to be a little accent. That's the whole idea with that one there. And so I don't want to be too detailed on how you use that ingredient. The measurement is very key, and making sure it's fresh as possible is very key. But I'm not going to sit here and tell you how to pour it into a glass, if that makes sense. Yeah. Because it's just merely that kind of like binding accent, not quite working as very subtly as a bitters, but really just kind of working as a total tied together ingredient and really aiding the mouthfeel, with the effervescence being there. But I've just to play around, because when I was trialing my drink, I said, well, look, I'm going to sit here and in our venue. Oh, hello, buddy.
I'm just going to take him off to the loo if you want to keep talking for like 2 minutes.
Sure, man. When I was trialing my drink, the whole idea was, we can sit here in my bar, we control very, 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 very well. And because we're in our own bar doing what we do, but I'm not going to be able to control what other bars do and how they make my drink. I can give them instructions, but I can't control how they pour out the sparkling. So if they pour out a sparkling that's maybe not quite as bright as I would like it, will it make a bit of a worse drink than the one I would make in my bar? Well, arguably, yes, of course it will. I mean, we can't control that. I can give you instructions how to make a daiquiri. It doesn't mean that on the other side of the world you'll make just as good of a daiquiri as I do. But with the sparkling wine, I made sure that it didn't ruin the drink if the ingredients weren't perfect. It was still there. The drink still really worked very, very well, which I think is kind of a very key aspect for Bacardi Legacy, is that not everybody's going to make your drink the exact same way. You can give everybody specs, you can give them ingredients on how to make it, you can give them recipes for the homemade syrups, but human error is always going to be involved. And so it's making sure that that ingredient doesn't, if it's varied a little bit or if its freshness is just a touch off, that the drink isn't all of a sudden unpalatable, that the drink is still very enjoyable, which I think in that case, it worked very, very well with this drink. If your sparkling is a touch off and you just don't even realize it in the moment, if you still balance the syrup with the lime, with the Bacardi Carta Blanca and the sparkling wine, you're still going to get a delicious drink that you'll enjoy time over and time over. So that was very, very important for me, and I think it's worked pretty well. So I guess this is the moment where I sit here and talk to myself. He's in the toilet with his little kid. So cute.
All right, I'm back, Will.
He's back.
I'm back.
I was talking to myself in the mirror. It's okay.
¿Qué quieres? ¿Quieres nada? Mira. Venga. So yesterday, everyone met my little baby, and this is my eldest boy.
What's up, bro? What's his name?
This is Kingston.
Kingston.
Bótalo. Mira. ¿Qué quieres? Yeah,
is that Swedish?
No, it's Spanish.
Oh, okay, I was like, whoa. Wait, so hold on. So you're obviously with your partner is Spanish. And you both live in Sweden.
I'm Peruvian.
Oh, okay. Man,
yes.
all the cultures going on.
We're a family of mongrels, man.
It sounds like it, man. Hey, your kids are gonna grow up with a bunch of passports and speaking a bunch of languages. So lucky them.
Huge benefits.
Oh, 100%. Lucky them.
You know, he's this little fella. He actually helped with my logo as well.
Did he? Is that his artwork I see in the painting?
Yeah, somewhat.
A little bit.
Yeah, I drew out kind of what I wanted. I wanted the flute to be the centerpiece, and I wanted to have fragmented elements inside there. And then he just kind of came along and just like, sprayed something on it. And I looked at it, I'm like, yeah, that works, little man.
Well done, Kingston.
Little buddy.
Well done, little.
Talk to me about your logo, man. You know, a question that I get a lot is, how important is a logo? They ask me, how do you go about creating one? How much should I pay? Who do I go to?
That's a tough one. Actually, I think, and I don't want to, you've got your kid in your hands, so I don't know how far down this conversation we want to go, but the whole, how much do you pay and how do you manage a legacy campaign? Man, you could do a whole video on that. My logo, I was very, very lucky. A good friend of mine, Nick Salvadori, who also works for Bacardi in Victoria, who I mentioned earlier, he's a graphic designer. So interestingly enough, I designed my first legacy campaign. It was named something different than it is now. And through completely my fault, which I will take ownership for, I didn't realize that somebody had actually used that same name in Bacardi Legacy last year. And it only came about after my drink had been featured on Cocktails for You, which for any nerds in the audience is like a cocktails Instagram with like 280,000 followers, which a friend of mine, Eddie, runs. And so he was like, yeah, I'll check your drink out for cocktail of the day. And there in the comments was somebody, I can't remember his name off the top of my head, but the guy from the Netherlands who won Globals last year and was like, oh, hey, check this out, the Samia. Like, and it was the guy from Greece who had literally named his drink the same name as last year as mine was this year. So I realized that that was a fun day being like, oh my God, I need to now change after I was already top 4 and well into my campaign, logos designed, everything being like, okay, pivot, time to change. It was a very much like, okay, do not panic moment. Like the idea is still amazing. The inspiration is still amazing, but just find something that fits more. So luckily Nick, being a great friend of mine, I was like, man, I need a redesign. I need something just bang right now. And he was like, bro, got you. No worries. Hooked me up. The logo, I mean, the whole idea is taking things to new heights. So it's very similar to the old, well, same idea as the old one, different name. That's why the Altura kind of goes like up. So it's kind of taking things to new heights. You've got the pineapple built in there in terms of the leaves on top. You can see the glass is the sparkling, like there's the sparkling wine kind of glass in the shape. The lime in there. So kind of all the ingredients incorporated, and then the green and the yellow. Personally, that shade of green is just my favorite color. And we talk about making Bacardi Legacy drinks personable, right? I don't want to like, I'm having pins made, I'm having shirts made, just kind of cool, fun stuff. I don't want to wear a logo that doesn't suit me. That's not me, right? You know, it's about being me. So I was like, I want my dope favorite colors in there. It helped that lime is also in my drink and lime peel, and that's that kind of color of green. So I think I was lucky in that Nick helped me with that. But I would say that if Nick didn't come forward and offer to help me with that, I would have also reached out to a friend. I'm not sure how it works globally in every country, but obviously in Australia, we get 1,000 Australian dollars to kind of play with, which is not much. Like it will go fast. So when it comes to things like that, you've got to be very, very selective about where you use your money. And if you've absolutely got no friends who can help you out and you're just in a bind, then maybe you want to throw it up on Airtasker and you want to have a logo made. Like, fair enough, because you've got to have a good logo. That's the first thing people see. I believe Bacardi Legacy it's funny. I didn't know your name when we started this interview, even though we talked a lot, because your Instagram doesn't have it, which is smart. Your Instagram's about your drink, because it's not a person competition. It's a drink competition, right? So we don't want to make it about ourselves too much. We want to make it about the drink. And so if you're going to make it about the drink, well, the logo is massive. So you've got to have a logo that fits you and fits your drink and your inspiration. But again, if you've got to try and do it without spending money, which I think is the ultimate challenge of this competition, is you've got to try and make that sort of stuff work. But in my case, I'm sure it's a relative. Oh, what's up, bud? I'm sure it's relatively the same in terms of the amount of financial support we get. It's not much. You can do some cool stuff with it, but you've got to be smart with how you use it. And so even if Nick hadn't come forward and offered to help me, I would have probably gone through some friends, or I would have at least exhausted all my opportunities first before I went to a professional, because a professional would have eaten up $300-400 straight out of the gate.
Yeah.
So,
hugely, man. Because we get roughly it's 1,600 Australian dollars. I think it works out to be.
Yeah.
And
it's also probably a bit more of an expensive place, so you kind of need that extra.
Yeah, and I mean,
need it.
Mate, you can. Está bien. No quieres eso. Pruébalo. No quieres. ¿Qué quieres? ¿Quieres más de eso? So, you need to be able to, it's like dirty daycare in here. You go.
Hey, killing it. Sympathy votes for days right now.
For me, I've done Legacy before in Australia. I never made it so far, but I spoke to Igor Pachi. Over. Oye, ¿qué tienes eso? Una galletita. And he said to me, you've got to be smart. You've got to pick and choose, and you've got to prioritize where that money's going to go. And sometimes, like you said, I used Upwork. Upwork, it's a website. Just write down, hey man, this is what I want. I want this, and be picky. It's your money. It's your brand. It's your legacy. You should be picky. Hop. You want to say hey, Will?
Dual interview right now. I dig it.
Hola.
Hey, dude.
¿Qué quieres? Okay. Yeah.
Oh, mate, he's the star of the show right now.
He's the star of everywhere that he goes, mate.
Yeah, well, of course.
I was going to call my drink. His name's Kingston, but I've called him Pachi ever since the day he was born. I was going to call my drink Pachi and Nacho for my two kids, and then
Nacho.
Yeah. My second boy is Nacho.
Awesome.
And just like you, I realized it's too specific.
It's too personal.
And some guy in China is not going to resonate with my children. It's
Exactly.
a great story to say. I made a drink after you, but no one cares.
Yeah.
Bro. No one cares.
Yeah. Nobody knows you, Kingston. You're beautiful as you are, Kingston, but they can't relate to you. They don't know you, and that's a huge thing, man.
Oh my god! You say, oh my god. Where'd you get that from?
Míos Dios.
Dios mío.
Dios mío, of course. Yeah, Dios mío. No, and that's exactly it. It has to be globally. People have to be able to relate to it. It's just to be personal, but also relatable, which seems like a bit of a kind of oxymoron. But like if you can find that middle ground, I think that's kind of the key.
Absolutely, man. And the same thing applies when you're creating a logo.
Yeah.
You got to do some research because, for example,
maybe they don't speak English.
If you have the sign like this. In China, this can be seen as quite offensive.
Misconstrued, yeah.
So do your research on logos and symbolisms and all that kind of stuff. And
I think that's what makes it so challenging and kind of fun. Is like we talk about like do your research and do your hard work, and then we also talk about but don't spend any money. But try and do it for cheap. And it's really interesting kind of paradox when you look at it like that.
So, brother, I'm gonna go get this guy ready.
100%.
And
you do you, man.
Hey, dude, it's been an absolute pleasure speaking with you, dude.
And really enjoyed it.
And
Really
you
like
know,
to.
like I said, everybody else that I do with, I'd love to catch up with you in a couple of weeks and see how you're trending, and
For sure, man.
you know, get some more social media love for you as well.
For sure. We as well. We can talk about this if we push it on our offer. But I'm putting together a second menu for another venue that I kind of like. I have the ability to put drinks on their menus, so I'd love to actually put your drink on the menu if you
Thank you,
wanted.
sir. Thank you, man.
That'd be dope from about. I get back January 7th, so I'm looking at about January 8th till our finals February 4th. So about a month. We can do about a month. I can get your drink on a menu. If we can do a bit of a menu exchange, or you can just help me get some awareness in Sweden, man. I would love that to bits. That'd be dope. Yeah.
You know, I just had an idea. I'm having a party in the Bacardi office. They've got a really dope bar there, and I've got a guy from Greece coming in, and I've got Envious Ray from Amsterdam. She's going to fly in for this event. Why don't you do a live seminar or something? I'll get you up on screen. You can make the drink. It's in front of 50 people. You throw that into your marketing.
Oh, bro, I'd be so down with that.
Yeah.
Give them some Altura cards live on stage. Man, live on the stream.
That's going to be in I think in early February. So
let me know, man.
If you want to send in anything over, I mean, like I said, I'm here to help. I'm here to to help people.
Let me know the date, and we'll make. It's weird because the different finals kind of line up differently. So mine, like for instance, I'm working with a guy from Singapore. Theirs is until late Feb, whereas mine's February 4th. So it's like mine's a bit more. It's a bit more urgent.
Yeah.
When is your final?
March 11th.
Yeah, right. Exactly. So you've got a whole month on me, whereas I'm hitting kind of the peak time right now. So yeah, dude, definitely let me know the date on that, and I'd love to make it. That'd be fucking awesome, dude. Actually, that's a really good idea to kind of do like a digital masterclass, almost a Skyped masterclass.
I
really
live,
smart.
I live in a tiny little town. I'm a family man. I've got to think outside the box, and I got to think radically. So
I really do. I dig what you're doing, man. I really hope to see you in the global finals, man. I hope to see you. I love your drink. Despite the pastis, I'm really excited to make one at work and taste it for the menu and see how we go. I'll do a live reaction video and I'll tag you.
Please do, man.
100%.
And
last thing.
I wrote this down for next year. That hashtag kill me.
Oh yeah, there you go. Hashtag, there you go. There you go. We can do a collaborative drink next year and just share that one.
Hey, dude, that could be. I just had a random idea. I make one drink, you make another drink, and then when you mix those two drinks together, you make unity, bro.
We're just like secretly like collaborating like on the DL, and they don't even realize, and then we're just like, oh, we actually just made two drinks that work together. Well, we're gonna make it to globals this year anyway, so we're not gonna want to do it next year, so it's not gonna matter.
Yeah, that's true.
I definitely will be doing this next year. All right,
man.
bro. Absolute pleasure to meet you, man.
You too, man, and enjoy the rest of your trip. And when you get back down to Melb's, hit me up and we'll get something going.
Yeah, I'll shoot you through a follow-through email. I'll get like all your specs and everything. I'll make that menu happen as soon as I get back, man, and we'll take it from there.
Perfect, man. And I'll get you in front of about 50, 60 people. You throw that into your marketing strategy, and fantastic.
Bro, love it. So on it. All about it.
All right, man. Bro. Machito, adios.
See you, Kingston.
Adios.
Ciao. See you, bro.
See you, man. All the best. Peace.